Jake Morrison kicked a stone off the forest trail and watched it roll down the hill. His morning patrol through the Glacier National Park had been quiet, just the way he liked it. The sun was breaking through the tall pine trees, making long shadows across the ground. Birds sang somewhere above him, and a squirrel ran up a nearby tree trunk. He had been a park ranger for 5 years now, ever since he left the Army. The peaceful mountains were exactly what he needed after 3 tours overseas. No explosions, no gunfire, just nature and the occasional lost hiker. Jake was checking his radio when he heard a loud crash from somewhere deep in the forest. The sound echoed off the mountains like thunder, but the sky was clear. He stopped, walking, and listened. Silence followed. Then the faint smell of burning metal drifted through the trees. "What the hell was that?" he said to himself. He turned off the main trail and pushed through the thick bushes toward the sound. His military training kicked in, and he moved carefully, watching for any danger. The smell of smoke got stronger as he walked deeper into the woods. After 20 minutes of hiking through rough terrain, Jake saw something that made him stop cold. A large piece of metal, unlike anything he had ever seen, was stuck between 2 huge pine trees. The object was about the size of a small airplane, but it had a strange silver color that seemed to shift in the sunlight. Steam rose from its surface. Jake approached slowly. The thing definitely was not made on Earth. Its surface was smooth, like liquid metal with no visible seams or bolts. Strange symbols glowed faintly along its sides. Part of it had cracked open during the crash, revealing a soft blue light from inside. He pulled out his radio to call for help, but then he heard something that made his blood freeze. A low moan was coming from inside the crashed object. Something was alive in there. Jake's first thought was to run. His second thought was to get back up. But then he heard the sound again, weaker this time, like someone was hurt and dying. His Army medic training took over. Someone needed help, and he was the only one here. He moved closer to the crack in the metal hull. The blue light was brighter now, and he could see movement inside. Taking a deep breath, Jake squeezed through the opening. The inside of the craft was unlike anything he could have imagined. The walls curved smoothly, covered with panels that flickered with soft lights. Strange symbols moved across screens like living words. The air was warm and smelled like ozone after a lightning strike. 3 figures lay on the floor near what looked like control stations. They were clearly not human, but they were not monsters either. Each stood about as tall as a person, with pale gray skin and large dark eyes. Their arms and legs were longer and thinner than human limbs, and they wore tight-fitting suits that looked like they were made from the same material as their ship. One of them was moving weakly, trying to reach a control panel. Dark blue liquid seeped from a wound on its head. The other 2 were still. Jake knelt beside the injured one. It looked up at him with those big dark eyes, and he saw intelligence there, and fear. The creature tried to speak, making sounds that were musical but completely foreign. "Easy there," Jake said softly, the same way he had talked to wounded soldiers. "I'm here to help." The alien's eyes widened with surprise. It seemed shocked that Jake was not attacking or running away. Jake carefully examined the head wound. The blue liquid was definitely blood, and the injury looked serious. He tore a strip from his shirt and gently pressed it against the wound to stop the bleeding. The alien made a soft sound that might have been gratitude. Jake then checked the other 2. One was breathing but unconscious. The third one was not moving at all. Jake's radio crackled to life. "Jake, you there? We got reports of some kind of explosion in Sector 7. Jake looked at the aliens, then at his radio. If he called this in, the government would swarm this place within hours. These beings would probably end up in some secret laboratory, cut open and studied like specimens. He had seen enough of what governments did to things they feared. "Jake, respond please." He made a decision that would change everything. "This is Jake. False alarm, guys. Just a dead tree that fell over. Big one. Made a hell of a noise when it hit the rocks. Copy that. You sure you're okay out there?" "Yeah, I'm fine. Heading back to base soon." Jake put the radio away and looked at the injured alien. It had been watching him during the entire conversation, and somehow Jake got the feeling it understood what had just happened. Over the next hour, Jake did what he could to help. He found what looked like a medical kit inside the ship and used hand signals to ask the alien how to use it. The creature, despite its pain, showed him how to activate a device that sealed the wound with some kind of energy field. The second alien woke up while Jake was working. It sat up quickly and made alarmed sounds when it saw Jake. The injured one made calming noises, and the second alien relaxed slightly. Jake tried basic sign language and drawing in the dirt to communicate. He drew a picture of the crashed ship, then pointed to them and to himself, then drew them all together with a heart symbol. The message was clear. He wanted to help, not hurt. The aliens looked at each other and seemed to have a quick conversation in their musical language. Then the first alien did something that surprised Jake. It pointed to itself and made a sound that might have been a name. Zektar. Jake pointed to himself. Jake. Jake, the alien repeated, its voice making the name sound like a song. By the time the sun was getting low, Jake had helped both conscious aliens get to their feet. Zektar was still weak but stable. The second alien, who had introduced himself as something that sounded like Nix, was checking the ship's systems with devices Jake could not begin to understand. The third alien had not woken up. Jake could see that Zektar was worried about his companion. Using gestures, Jake tried to ask if there was anything more he could do to help. Zektar went to one of the control panels and touched it. A screen lit up showing images that made Jake's jaw drop. The screen showed Earth from space, then zoomed in to show cities, forests, and oceans. It showed humans going about their daily lives, children playing, people helping each other during disasters, scientists working in laboratories. Jake realized these aliens had been watching Earth for a long time. But why had they crashed? And what were they really doing here? Zektar pointed to the images, then to Jake, then made a gesture that seemed to indicate confusion or surprise. It was as if he was saying that Jake was not what they had expected humans to be like. As darkness fell, Jake knew he could not stay much longer without people getting suspicious. He used gestures to indicate that he would return the next day. Zektar seemed to understand and made a gesture that looked like gratitude. Jake squeezed back through the crack in the hull and looked back at the strange ship. Tomorrow he would have to decide what to do next. These beings were obviously intelligent and peaceful. They needed help, but they also represented the most important discovery in human history. As he walked back through the dark forest, Jake Morrison had no idea that his simple act of kindness had just changed the fate of not only Earth, but the entire galaxy. Inside the ship, Zektar was already preparing a report that would shock his commanders. Humans, he would tell them, were nothing like what they had expected. Jake returned to the crash site before sunrise the next morning. He carried a backpack full of medical supplies, food, and water bottles. The forest was quiet except for the sound of his boots on the pine needles. When he reached the alien ship, he found Zektar and Nix outside working on the damaged hull with tools that glowed with soft light. The third alien was still unconscious but had been moved to a makeshift bed of soft material from inside the ship. Zektar looked up when Jake approached. The alien made a sound that Jake was starting to recognize as a greeting. Jake waved and set down his backpack. "I brought some things that might help," Jake said, knowing they could not understand his words but hoping his tone was clear. Over the next few hours, something amazing happened. Using a combination of hand signals, drawings in the dirt, and simple mathematics, Jake and the aliens began to really communicate. Nix turned out to be some kind of engineer or scientist, while Zektar seemed to be their leader. They showed Jake how their translation device worked. It was a small crystal that could learn languages by listening to patterns in speech. By noon, Jake could understand basic words in their language, and they were starting to pick up English. "Jake, friend," Zektar said slowly, his musical voice, making the English words sound strange but wonderful. "Yes, Zektar, friend too," Jake replied. That afternoon, Zektar did something that changed everything. He activated a large screen inside the ship and began showing Jake images that made his heart race. The first images showed space, filled with stars and planets. Then the screen showed other worlds, other species. Jake saw beings that looked like giant insects working together to build cities. He saw creatures that resembled dolphins but with arms, swimming through underwater cities. He saw tall, plant-like beings tending to vast gardens that covered entire continents. Galaxy big, Zektar said in broken English. Many people, many worlds. Jake's mind struggled to process what he was seeing. Earth was not alone. The galaxy was full of intelligent life, and somehow these aliens knew about all of it. Then the images changed, and Jake saw something that made him feel cold inside. The screen showed dead worlds, planets covered in ash and ruins, cities destroyed by war, oceans poisoned, forests burned to nothing. What happened to them? Jake asked. Zektar's large eyes looked sad. He touched the screen and made sounds in his own language. The translation device picked up some of the words: fight, kill, gone. Jake understood. These civilizations had destroyed themselves through war and environmental damage. But then the screen showed something different. Other worlds where everything looked perfect and clean, but strangely empty of life and activity. These ones not fight, Zektar explained. These ones make peace, but... He struggled to find the English words. No new things, no change. Same, always same. Jake began to understand what Zektar was trying to tell him. Some species had achieved peace by giving up everything that made them creative and individual. They had stopped growing, stopped learning, stopped living in any meaningful way. What about your people? Jake asked. Zektar showed him images of his home world. It looked beautiful, but sterile. Tall, graceful buildings rose from perfectly maintained landscapes. The aliens moved through their cities in orderly patterns, everyone doing the same things at the same times. There was no chaos, no conflict, but also no laughter, no art, no individual expression. We safe, Zektar said quietly, but we not alive. Jake felt a chill of understanding. These aliens lived in a kind of beautiful prison, where peace came, at the cost of everything that made life worth living. Then Zektar showed him something that made Jake's chest tight with emotion. The screen displayed Earth, but not from satellites or telescopes. These were close-up recordings taken secretly over many years. Jake watched himself and other humans doing ordinary things, but seeing them through alien eyes made them seem extraordinary. He saw a woman running into a burning building to save a stranger's cat. He saw a group of teenagers cleaning up a polluted river just because they thought it was the right thing to do. He saw an old man teaching a young boy how to fix a bicycle, both of them laughing when they made mistakes. The images kept coming. Humans helping each other during natural disasters, scientists from different countries working together to cure diseases, artists creating beautiful things just for the joy of creation. But the screen also showed the darker side: wars, pollution, cruelty, and hatred. We watch long time, Zektar explained. We think humans like others. Fight until dead, or make peace and stop living. Jake watched more images. A soldier sharing his food with enemy prisoners. A child giving her favorite toy to another child who had lost everything in a flood. A group of people from different religions working together to build homes for the poor. But humans different, Nick said, joining the conversation. His English was better than Zektar's. Humans fight, yes, but humans also love. Same humans, same time. Jake began to understand what had surprised them so much. Humans were capable of both great cruelty and great kindness, often in the same person, sometimes on the same day. Other species had chosen one path or the other, but humans somehow held both possibilities in balance. We come to see, Zektar continued, come to understand how humans do this thing. What thing? Jake asked. How you keep fighting spirit but not destroy selves. How you keep love but not become weak. Jake thought about this for a long time. He remembered his time in the army. How he had seen soldiers risk their lives to save civilians they had never met. He thought about disasters he had witnessed, where people who had been arguing the day before would work together to help their neighbors. Maybe, Jake said slowly, Maybe it's because we know we're not perfect. We know we can be bad, so we try harder to be good. The aliens looked at each other and had a quick conversation in their own language. Jake caught a few translated words. Interesting, possible, dangerous. Dangerous? Jake asked. Zektar nodded seriously. Galaxy Council watch all new species. If species dangerous, Council stop them. If species peaceful but weak, Council protect them. But humans... He struggled with the words. Humans might be something new. Nix finished. Something that could change everything. Jake felt the weight of those words. These aliens had been sent to study humanity and report back to some kind of galactic government. What they had discovered was that humans did not fit into any of the expected categories. As the sun began to set, the third alien finally woke up. He was weak but conscious, and Zektar seemed very relieved. They had a long conversation in their musical language, with Zektar apparently explaining everything that had happened. The newly awakened alien looked at Jake with wonder and spoke to his companions. Jake heard his name mentioned several times, along with words the translator picked up as unexpected and hope. What did he say? Jake asked. He say you prove our theory, Zektar replied. First human we meet and you show both things. You careful like warrior but kind like healer. You strong enough to help, wise enough not to hurt. Jake felt embarrassed by the praise. I just did what anyone would do. No, Nick said firmly. Not anyone. Most species they run or attack when they see unknown thing. You help. This is human thing. As Jake prepared to leave for the night, Zektar showed him one more image on the screen. It was a recording of Jake himself from the day before, kneeling, beside the injured alien using his own shirt to stop the bleeding. We send this to Council, Zektar said. Show them what humans really are. Jake realized that his simple act of kindness was about to be broadcast across the galaxy. The thought was both thrilling and terrifying. What happens next? Jake asked. Zektar and Nix exchanged glances. We not sure, Zektar admitted. This never happened before, but change coming, Jake. Big change for humans, for galaxy, for everyone. As Jake walked home through the dark forest, he knew that tomorrow would bring new challenges. The secret was getting bigger, and soon he would not be able to handle it, alone. But tonight he felt something he had not felt since leaving the army. He was part of something important, something that could make a real difference in the world. Jake knew he could not keep the secret much longer. On his third day visiting the aliens, he brought his satellite phone and made a decision that scared him more than finding the crashed ship. I need to call some people, he told Zektar. People who can help, but also people who might want to study you like animals in a lab. Zektar understood more English now, thanks to their translation device learning from their conversations. You trust these people? Jake thought about it carefully. I trust one person. Dr. Lisa Bennett. She works for NASA, studies the possibility of life on other planets. She's smart and kind. If anyone will treat you right, it's her. The aliens had a quick discussion in their musical language. Finally, Zektar nodded. We trust Jake. Jake choose. Jake dialed Lisa's number. They had served together on a military science project years ago, and she was one of the few people he knew who could handle something this big. Lisa, it's Jake Morrison. I need you to come to Montana right away, and I need you to come alone. Jake? It's been 2 years. What's going on? I found something that's going to change everything. But I need your word that you'll come alone first before you call anyone else. Lisa was quiet for a moment. She knew Jake well enough to know he would not joke about something serious. Give me 12 hours. While they waited for Lisa to arrive, the aliens continued to share more about the galaxy. The third alien, whose name sounded like Kesker, was feeling much better and turned out to be their historian and cultural expert. Kes showed Jake images of hundreds of different worlds and species. Each civilization followed the same basic pattern. They would develop technology, create art, explore their world, and grow in knowledge and culture. But then they would face a choice. All species reach the great decision. Kess explained through the translator. Keep growing and risk destroying selves, or stop growing and live safely. Jake saw world after world that had made the same choice. The lucky ones had wars that ended in total destruction. The unlucky ones had achieved perfect peace by giving up everything that made them individuals. Look at this, Kess said, showing Jake a world called Valen Prime. The images showed a beautiful planet with elegant cities and advanced technology. The beings there looked like tall, graceful humans with silver skin. Valan people very smart, very advanced. They solve all problems. Jake watched the Valan people moving through their cities. They were beautiful and peaceful, but something was wrong. They all moved the same way, wore the same clothes, had the same expressions on their faces. What happened to them? They decide fighting bad, so they remove fighting from selves, Nix explained. Remove anger, remove jealousy, remove competition, but also remove passion, remove creativity, remove growth. The images showed Valan libraries where no new books had been written for thousands of years. Art galleries where every painting looked exactly the same. Schools where children learned the same lessons their great-great-grandparents had learned. They live forever now, Kess said sadly. But they not really living. Jake saw world after world with the same story. The Christine Empire had eliminated all conflict by making everyone think exactly the same thoughts. The Harmony Collective had achieved peace by removing all individual desires. The Unity States had created perfect cooperation by erasing personal identity. And the ones who chose to keep growing? Jake asked. The screen showed dead worlds, burnt planets, empty space where civilizations had once thrived. They grow until they destroy everything, Zektar said simply. Jake felt a chill. So those are the only two choices? Die fighting or live as robots? Was only two choices, Kess corrected. Until we find humans. The next morning, Lisa Bennett arrived at the park headquarters. Jake met her at her rental car and she could see immediately that something had changed him. You look like you've seen a ghost, Jake. Something like that. Lisa, before I show you what I found, I need you to promise me something. Promise me you'll think like a scientist first, not like a government agent. Lisa studied his face. What exactly are you showing me? The most important discovery in human history. But these are living beings, not specimens. They need help, not dissection. Lisa nodded slowly. Show me. The walk through the forest to the crash site took 20 minutes. Lisa asked questions, but Jake told her she needed to see it first. When they reached the clearing where the ship sat, Lisa stopped walking and stared. Is that what I think it is? Depends on what you think it is. 3 figures emerged from the ship. Lisa grabbed Jake's arm tightly as Zektar, Nix, and Kess approached them. The aliens moved slowly, trying not to frighten her. Dr. Lisa Bennett, Jake said formally. Meet Commander Zektar and his crew from the Zephyrian Coalition. Lisa's mouth opened and closed several times before any sound came out. They're real. They're actually real. Zektar stepped forward and spoke carefully in English. Hello, Dr. Bennett. Jake tell us you good person, you help us? Lisa looked at Jake, then back at the aliens. Her scientific mind was racing, but her human heart was touched by the hope in Zektar's large eyes. Yes, she said simply. I'll help you. Over the next several hours, the aliens shared their full story with Lisa. They explained about the Galaxy Council, the patterns of civilization, and what made humans unique. Lisa asked hundreds of questions, her scientist's curiosity overcoming her shock. So you're saying that every other species in the galaxy has either destroyed itself or given up individuality for peace? Lisa asked. Every species we know, Kess confirmed. Thousands of worlds, same pattern always. But humans are different because we fight and cooperate at the same time. More than that, Nick said. Humans change. Always changing, always growing, but not destroying selves. This not possible, but humans do it anyway. Lisa was quiet for a long time, processing everything. Finally, she asked the question that Jake had been dreading. What does the Galaxy Council plan to do about us? The aliens exchanged glances. Zektar answered carefully. Council have rules. Dangerous species must be stopped. Peaceful species get protection. But humans... He struggled with the words. Humans not fit rules, Kess finished. Council not know what to do. What are the options? Lisa asked. Zektar's expression grew serious. Council can quarantine Earth. Keep humans here. Never let them travel to other worlds. Or Council can try to change humans, make them like other peaceful species. Jake felt his blood run cold. Change us how? Remove fighting instinct, Nix explained. Remove competition. Remove individual wants. Make humans peaceful like Valan people. Turn us into robots, Jake said angrily. Not robots, Zektar said, sadly. Still alive, still thinking. Just not growing, not changing, not being human anymore. Lisa stood up and paced around the clearing. There has to be another option. Maybe, Kess said quietly. We think maybe humans can teach other species, show Galaxy how to grow without destroying. Jake realized what they were suggesting. You want us to help other civilizations learn how to be like us? If possible, Zektar nodded. If humans really can balance fighting and peace, maybe humans can teach this to Galaxy. Maybe Galaxy can start growing again. Lisa stopped pacing. That's assuming we don't destroy ourselves first. Yes, Nix agreed. Big risk. But maybe only chance for Galaxy to live again, not just survive. As the sun set, Lisa and Jake sat with the aliens around a small fire. The forest was peaceful, but all of them knew that peace was about to end. Soon more people would need to know. Governments would get involved. The secret would become public. How long do we have? Lisa asked. Our ships send automatic signal. When we crash, Zektar explained. Council fleet coming to investigate. Maybe 1 of your weeks, maybe 2. Jake looked at Lisa. We need to get ready. We need to show them the best of humanity before they decide what to do with us. Lisa nodded. We need to call more people. Scientists, leaders, maybe even the president. But good people, Kess said urgently. People who understand that different not always mean dangerous. As Jake and Lisa prepared to leave, Zektar gave them a device that looked like a crystal wrapped in metal. Communication device, he explained. You call us, we answer. But be careful. When you tell others, everything change. For humans, for Galaxy, for everyone. Walking back through the dark forest, Jake and Lisa both knew that their quiet lives were over. In a week or two, alien ships would arrive in Earth's solar system, and the Galaxy Council would make a decision that would determine humanity's future. The question was, would they see humans as a threat to be eliminated, a problem to be fixed, or something entirely new that could change the galaxy forever? Lisa made the hardest phone call of her life 3 days later. She sat in her hotel room in the small Montana town, staring at her secure satellite phone for an hour before finally dialing. Dr. Crawford, this is Lisa Bennett from NASA. I need to speak with you about something that cannot wait. Dr. Ben Crawford was the head of NASA's astrobiology department and one of the few people in government who took the search for alien life seriously. Lisa had worked with him before and trusted him to handle sensitive information properly. Lisa, what's so urgent that you're calling on a secure line at midnight? Ben, I need you to sit down. What I'm about to tell you will sound impossible, but I need you to trust me. I found them, Ben. I found actual aliens and they're alive. The silence on the other end lasted so long that Lisa thought the call had been dropped. Lisa, are you feeling okay? Have you been under stress lately? Ben, I'm sending you coordinates. Bring a small team, people you trust completely. No military, no government officials yet. Just scientists. And Ben, bring Amy Rodriguez from the Air Force. If we're going to need military support, I want someone who thinks before they shoot. 2 days later, a small convoy of vehicles arrived at the park. Ben Crawford had brought Dr. Nina Clark, a linguist who specialized in communication theory, and Captain Troy Williams, a young Air Force officer who worked on classified projects. Amy Rodriguez, a tough but fair military scientist, completed the team. Jake met them at the park headquarters and could see the skepticism on their faces. "I know this sounds crazy," he told them. "I thought I was losing my mind at first, but you need to see this with your own eyes." The walk to the crash. Sight was tense. Ben kept muttering about scientific protocols while Amy scanned the forest like she expected an ambush. Nina was the only one who seemed excited rather than worried. When they reached the clearing, the alien ship was clearly visible, its strange metal surface catching the morning sunlight. But no aliens were in sight. "Zektar," Jake called out. "It's Jake. I brought the people I told you about." 3 figures emerged from the ship, moving slowly and carefully. Dr. Crawford stopped walking and grabbed Lisa's arm. "My God," he whispered. "They're real." Zektar approached the group with his hands visible and empty. He had learned that this was how humans showed they were peaceful. His English was much better now after days of practice with Jake and Lisa. "Hello," Zektar said carefully. "I am Commander Zektar of the Zephyrian Coalition. We are grateful for your help." Amy Rodriguez stepped forward, her hand instinctively moving toward her weapon before she forced herself to relax. "Commander, I'm Captain Amy Rodriguez, United States Air Force. Are there more of your people coming?" "Yes," Zektar nodded. "Council fleet arrives in 7 days. They come to decide what happens to Earth." The next several hours were like the most important scientific conference in human history. The aliens shared everything they knew about the galaxy, while the human team asked questions and tried to understand the full situation. Dr. Nina Clark was fascinated by the alien language and communication methods. "The mathematical basis of their language is incredible," she told the others. "It's like music and math had a baby." Ben Crawford was more concerned with the practical implications. "So you're saying that in 1 week, a fleet of alien ships is going to arrive and decide whether humanity lives or dies?" "Not dies," Nix corrected. "Changed. Made peaceful like other species." "What exactly does that mean?" Amy asked. Kess activated the ship's display screen and showed them recordings from the peaceful worlds they had visited before. The human team watched in horror as they saw species that had given up everything that made them individuals. "They remove emotions that cause conflict," Kess explained. "Remove desire to compete, to grow, to be different. Everyone becomes same." Dr. Crawford stared at the images. "They lobotomize entire civilizations?" "Not surgery," Zektar said. "Technology that changes how brain works. Very gentle, no pain. But after change, people not want to fight anymore. Also not want to create new things, not want to explore, not want to change anything. They become zombies," Amy said flatly. "Peaceful zombies," Nix agreed sadly. Troy Williams, who had been quiet during most of the discussion, finally spoke up. "What about the option where humans help other species? How would that work?" The aliens looked at each other. "We not sure," Zektar admitted. "Never tried before, but maybe humans can show galaxy species how to keep growing without destroying selves." Lisa had been thinking about this for days. "We would need to prove that humans can actually do that we can control our destructive impulses while keeping our creative ones." "How do we prove something like that in 7 days?" Ben asked. Jake had an idea that scared him. "We let them test us." Everyone turned to look at him. "What do you mean?" Amy asked. "The aliens have technology we can't even imagine. What if they gave some of it to a group of humans and watched what we do with it? If we use it to help people instead of hurting them, maybe that proves we're different." Zektar's large eyes grew wider. "Very dangerous. Human leaders might want to use technology for weapons." "Then we don't tell the leaders yet," Jake said. "We start small, give the technology to ordinary people and see what they do." Dr. Crawford shook his head. "The ethical implications alone." "Ben," Lisa interrupted, "we're talking about the survival of human civilization. Normal ethics don't apply." Amy was thinking like a military strategist. "It could work, but we'd need to control the test carefully. Choose the right people, monitor everything, be ready to shut it down if things go wrong." Over the next 2 days, they developed a plan that was either brilliant or completely insane. The aliens would share 3 pieces of their technology with carefully selected humans: a medical device that could heal injuries instantly, an energy generator that could provide unlimited clean power, and a fabrication device that could create any material object from basic elements. They chose 12 people from the nearby town to participate in the test: teachers, mechanics, nurses, farmers, and shop owners. Ordinary people who had no idea they were about to become part of the most important experiment in human history. Jake volunteered to be the first test subject. Zektar gave him the medical device, a small crystal that could diagnose and treat any illness or injury. The device was programmed to work only for healing, not as a weapon. "If this goes wrong," Amy warned, "if people start using this technology for the wrong reasons, we shut everything down immediately." "Understood," Jake nodded. The first test happened that afternoon. Jake was walking through town when he heard screaming from the local garage. He ran inside and found old Pete Martinez trapped under a car that had fallen off its jack. Pete was conscious, but his leg was badly crushed. Without thinking, Jake pulled out the alien healing device. He had no idea if it would work or if anyone was watching, but Pete was in pain and might die without help. Jake activated the device and aimed it at Pete's injured leg. A soft blue light surrounded the wound, and within seconds, the swelling went down. In less than a minute, Pete was sitting up, staring at his perfectly healed leg. "Jake, what the hell was that thing?" "Something that's going to change everything, Pete." Word spread quickly through the small town. By evening, a line of people with various injuries and illnesses had formed outside Jake's cabin. He spent the night healing everything from broken bones to cancer, and not once did anyone ask him to use the device as a weapon. Dr. Crawford, who had been monitoring from a distance, was amazed. "They're using it exactly the way we hoped they would." The second test involved Mary Chen, a local teacher who received the energy generator. Instead of selling it or keeping it for herself, she used it to power the entire school, and then offered to share the energy with anyone in town who needed it. The third test gave the fabrication device to Tom Bradley, a farmer who was struggling to feed his family during a drought. Tom used it to create irrigation equipment for his farm, then started making the same equipment for his neighbors. "This is incredible," Nina observed. "Give humans advanced technology, and their first instinct is to help each other." But on the 6th day, something went wrong. News of the miracles happening in the small Montana town had reached the outside world. Government agents were on their way, and worse, the alien council fleet had arrived early. Zektar received a communication from the fleet commander demanding an immediate report. "Council wants to know why we not return to ship," he told the human team. "They detect technology signatures from surface." Amy looked up at the sky, where strange lights had appeared among the stars. "How long do we have?" "Council ships orbit Earth now," Zektar said quietly. "Tomorrow they send shuttle to collect us and examine humans." Jake looked at his friends, both human and alien. "Then tomorrow we find out if we passed the test or if we just doomed our entire species." The 12 humans who had received alien technology gathered that evening, not knowing that the fate of their world rested on what they had chosen to do with the incredible gifts they had been given. Above them, alien ships waited to pass judgment on humanity's future. The council shuttle landed in the forest clearing at dawn. It was 3 times larger than Zektar's crashed scout ship, made from the same flowing metal but decorated with symbols that seemed to shift and change in the morning light. Jake stood, with the human team and the 3 aliens, watching as a ramp extended from the shuttle. His heart was beating so fast he thought it might explode. Everything humanity had ever done, everything they might become, would be decided in the next few hours. 5 figures emerged from the shuttle. They were taller than Zektar's people, with skin that looked like polished stone and eyes that glowed with soft inner light. The leader wore robes that seemed to be made from liquid starlight. "I am High Counselor Veltar of the Galactic Council," the leader announced in perfect English. "We have come to evaluate the species known as humans and determine their fate." Zektar stepped forward and bowed deeply. "High Counselor, I am ready to present my report." "Your report is overdue, Commander," Veltar said coldly. "You were ordered to observe and return. Instead, you have made contact and shared council technology with primitives. Jake felt anger rise in his chest at the word primitives, but Lisa grabbed his arm and squeezed it gently. Getting mad now would only prove the council's point. "Hi, Counselor," Dr. Crawford said, stepping forward carefully. "We understand you have decisions to make about our species. We hope you will consider all the evidence before reaching a conclusion." Veltar's glowing eyes fixed on Crawford. "You dare to address the council directly? Your species has not been granted speaking rights." "Then grant them," Jake said, unable to stay quiet any longer. "If you're going to decide our future, at least let us have a voice in it." The other council members made sounds that might have been shock or anger. Veltar studied Jake with interest. "You are the human called Jake Morrison. Our records show you were the first to encounter our scout team." "That's right. According to Commander Zektar's preliminary reports, you provided aid to injured aliens, rather than fleeing or attacking. Why?" Jake thought about the question carefully. "Because they were hurt and needed help. That's what you do when someone's in trouble. Even when that someone is completely alien to you, even when you had no way of knowing if they were dangerous." "Especially then," Jake replied. "If they had been dangerous, they would have hurt me whether I helped them or not. But if they weren't dangerous, then leaving them to die would have been wrong." Veltar turned to his fellow council members and spoke in a language that sounded like wind chimes in a thunderstorm. Jake caught Zektar translating quietly for the human team. "Unusual response, while not in database, requires evaluation. Commander Zektar," Veltar said, returning to English, "present your full report." What happened next was the most important presentation in human history. Zektar activated a holographic display that filled the clearing with images and data. He showed the council everything he had observed about humanity, starting with Jake's first act of kindness and continuing through all the examples of human behavior they had recorded. The council watched footage of humans helping each other during disasters, scientists from different countries working together on research, artists creating beauty for no reason other than joy. But they also saw wars, pollution, and cruelty. "As you can see," Zektar explained, "humans do not fit our standard categories. They are capable of both creation and destruction, often simultaneously. This confirms that they are dangerous," one of the council members said. "Species that cannot control their violent impulses must be contained or corrected." "But, High Counselor," Zektar continued, "observe what happens when humans are given advanced technology." The display showed the results of their week-long test. Jake using the healing device to help injured people, Mary Chen sharing unlimited energy with her entire community, Tom Bradley creating tools to help other farmers. In every case, the human's first instinct had been to help others rather than to gain power or wealth. "Interesting," Veltar admitted. "But this is a small sample. How do we know this represents the species as a whole?" Amy Rodriguez stepped forward. "Because it does represent us. You want to know what makes humans different? It's not that we're always good or always peaceful. It's that we choose. Every day, every hour, we choose between helping and hurting, between creating and destroying. And you claim to choose correctly?" "We claim to keep trying," Lisa said. "When we make mistakes, we learn from them. When we do wrong, we try to do better. We're not perfect, but we're always growing." Veltar was quiet for a long moment. "The council has observed thousands of species. They all follow predictable patterns. Yet your preliminary data suggests humans follow no pattern at all." "Maybe that's the point," Nina Clark suggested. "Maybe the galaxy needs a species that doesn't follow patterns." The council members had another long discussion in their musical language. Finally, Veltar spoke again. "The council will consider 3 options for humanity. First, quarantine your planet to prevent you from spreading chaos to other worlds. Second, apply correction technology to make your species peaceful like others. Third," he paused and Jake held his breath. "Third, accept humanity as a full member of the Galactic Council and assign you the role of cultural renewal specialists." "What does that mean?" Ben Crawford asked. "It means," Zektar said with something that might have been excitement, That humans would travel to other worlds and try to teach them how to grow again without destroying themselves. Veltar nodded. Several species have requested this service. They have achieved peace but lost the ability to create, to explore, to develop. They exist but do not truly live. If humans can show them how to regain their growth while maintaining stability, the galaxy could start moving forward again, Jake finished. Yes, but this is also the most dangerous option. If humans fail, if they destabilize peaceful worlds or cause new conflicts, the consequences would be catastrophic. Amy looked at her fellow humans. What kind of proof do you need that we can handle this responsibility? We need to see humans face a real test, Veltar replied. Not helping neighbors in a small town, but making decisions that affect entire worlds. Jake felt his stomach drop. What kind of test? Veltar gestured, and the holographic display showed a planet covered in beautiful cities. This is Serenity Prime, home to the Ethereal Collective. They achieved perfect peace 3,000 years ago by eliminating all conflict and competition. But they have not created a single new invention, written a single new song, or built a single new building since then. The display showed the planet's inhabitants moving through their cities like sleepwalkers. They were beautiful and graceful, but there was no life in their eyes, no spark of curiosity or joy. They have requested help, Veltar continued. They want to feel alive again but do not know how without risking their peace. If humans can help them find balance, the Council will accept that humanity has earned its place in the galaxy. And, if we fail? Lisa asked. Then humanity will be corrected like all other dangerous species. Jake looked at his friends, both human and alien. The choice was clear, but terrifying. They could accept quarantine and live safely on Earth forever, never knowing what else was out there. They could accept correction and become peaceful but empty shells of themselves. Or they could take the biggest risk in human history and try to help heal an entire galaxy. How long do we have to decide? Amy asked. The decision must be made now, Veltar said. The test ship leaves for Serenity Prime today. Jake stepped forward without hesitation. I'll go. Jake, no, Lisa protested. We need to think about this. Plan it properly. There's no time for planning, Jake replied. Besides, this is what humans do. We see someone who needs help and we help them, even if we don't know how yet. Dr. Crawford nodded slowly. He's right. This is exactly the kind of thing that makes us human. One by one, the others stepped forward. Lisa, Amy, Ben, Nina, even Tom Bradley and Mary Chen from the town. We're all going, Lisa announced. Veltar looked surprised. This is not a group mission. One representative will suffice. You don't understand, Amy said with a smile. Humans work better as a team. We're stronger together than apart. Besides, Jake added, if we're going to teach an entire planet how to be human, we're going to need all the humanity we can get. Veltar studied them for a long moment, then made a sound that might have been laughter. Perhaps the galaxy is ready for something completely different after all. As the human volunteers prepared to board the council ship that would take them to Serenity Prime, Zektar pulled Jake aside. Thank you, Jake Morrison, the alien said quietly, for saving my life, for trusting my people, for showing the galaxy what humans really are. Jake smiled and shook Zektar's hand in the human gesture the alien had learned to love. Thank you for crashing in my forest. As their ship lifted off toward the stars, carrying the first human ambassadors to another world, Jake looked out the window at Earth growing smaller below them. They were leaving behind everything they had ever known to help strangers on a distant planet learn how to live again. It was, he thought, the most human thing they could possibly do. Behind them, the Galaxy Council began preparing for the most important change in galactic history.